that's why I
read
like
what I
talking to
needed
you
to.
though, because you and you know, and this is I want to bring both of our stories together a little bit because you know neither one of us really smoked weed in high school, and we weren't we
No,
were
not at all.
focused on
I didn't smoke at
sports. I was
all.
I was a smart kid, and I think a lot of high schoolers that don't keep up with me would probably remember me as like the math kid.
Yeah.
Uh, but like we went to college and we both had experiences, and I think cannabis probably played a role for both of us. I remember your story from episode 6, and then for me,
Yep.
I would say cannabis definitely played a role, but also just a lot of documentaries. I was getting into documentaries at that time, and I got
That
into the whole
started with me
conspiracy
too.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
My angle in on it was following the money. The whole like I'm not a huge Ron Paul fan anymore. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say I'm not a fan. I still like Ron Paul. I still like a lot of his ideas. I don't agree with all of them as much as I used to.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but like, understanding central banking, even though like I'm not as much of a libertarian or like this Austrian economic type of guy now, 10 years later, um, like that was definitely like his books. And then also there was a movie called America from Freedom to Fascism. Aaron Russo is the director of that. He's passed since then, but he talks a lot about the shisty way that they were able to pass the income tax law. This it's the 16th Amendment. Um, but you would have to watch it. I don't want to go into complete detail, but the point of all that is my
Right.
angle into conspiracy was money. And
Right.
I remember, because social media was kind of new at the time, and I'm sure a lot of people thought I was wild because this was like 2008, 2009. I'm posting, zeitgeist and fucking America from freedom to fascism, the Obama deception, shit,
Classic
shit like
truth
this.
and material though, bro.
and and I remember the first time I saw you after I guess we got red pilled or black pilled or whatever the fuck you want to call that experience, that phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we were over at LT's. I think it was Christmas break or it was one of the like college breaks. Pretty sure it was Christmas break. And as soon as I walked in the door, you said, "Gee, my man, here for the revolution." And I'm saying, man, that was
It's
probably 2009, 2010. So we've been thinking like this for a while.
for a
And it's
while,
good to
man.
be able to talk about it, to have our pod, even if we get, 10 listens or whatever peddly amount of listens we get. Uh, you know, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's therapy. And
It is.
and and
I
then
like how you're saying that too, though. It's therapy because it kind of is, though, man.
and when
Seriously,
we talk about
because
medicine, it's like the medicine that they're feeding us, that ain't medicine, man. And Charles Eisenstein talks about, you are statistically more likely to live to 100 smoking and drinking and hanging out with friends than you are
fellowshipping.
living in a bubble by
Yep.
yourself, alienated, which is
Yep.
one of the reasons why I used alienation as the name before, but we're in the balancing act era now. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, the whole point is community is medicine. Being able to talk real with your homies, with your family. I wish I had a family that I could talk this type of shit with, like,
Right.
my dad, he'll hear it, but he don't,
Yeah. My dad
he's a
too, man.
boomer. He's a boomer.
Yeah. They
It's
can't.
they don't
Their program is set a certain way, man.
it's like there's a
Not all, but a
distortion.
lot.
It's like there's a field.
Yeah.
You can't get through the field.
You can't penetrate it. It's so, but that goes back to just like when you think about some of the stuff we talk about with programs and all of it. It's so it has to be something to this stuff, bro, because we all have good intentions. We all want to, but there's just certain things that it just they're like I mean, my dad thinks my dad sometimes is like, dude, you always want to go against the grain and this, that, and the third. I'm like, Dad, it's not even about going against the grain. It's just about understanding things for what they really are. And I realize that some people are scared to face things as they really are. But to me, you need to so you can know how to better
it's
maneuver through it all.
healthier.
There, there,
You
there, there
live in
might
a
not be,
lie.
it's healthier. Yes.
I don't care how pretty. I don't
Yes.
care how pretty the lie is. I don't care how pretty you dress it up. It can't feel as good as the
It
truth.
can't, bro.
It
It
can't.
can't. You know, and let me tell you, speaking of that, another thing that I'm really starting to understand. There's a lot of people out here, bro, that's got a lot of houses, they got a lot of cars, they got the title, they got the job, they got all of that. Let me tell you, bro, with what I'm learning about money and what I understand about this debt matrix and that whole side of things, I love how I'm doing things right now. No mortgage, no rent, no car note, starting to pay things cash up front. I ain't getting into nothing. Bro, it's a different world when you start to understand because remember, it's not just one system out here in place to fuck people. It's not just one, it's many systems, many. One of them is debt, taxes, and loans, and interest rates, and the trap. It's part of it. It's a piece, not the whole, but it's a piece. It lives under that umbrella of the matrix. That's why I liked how LJ called this thing the debt matrix. It was like, yeah, it's a matrix. It's a different illusion that you
But
look in when you say,
when
"Yo, I got
money,
$200,000 worth of debt, but I'm still paying a mortgage, but I own this house." No, you don't own the house. The banks own
the
the house.
bank
You
owns that
don't even
house. You pay the
you don't
bank to
own
say that
nothing,
you
bro.
own it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know, man. That's about I can see now. That's gonna be my next. Well, it already is, but all of these little pieces build one big puzzle. And when you look at the picture on that puzzle, if we ever get to completion, I don't think you ever really fully get to completion. But for folks like the what's her name, the lady you talk about that just way ahead. I mean, her
Alice
puzzle is
McDowell.
obviously yes, Allison, yes, her McDowell, yes, her puzzle has obviously got a lot more pieces in it, and you can see that picture a lot clearly. And I'm just working on that phase of the puzzle right now, where it's like, it's we really overcomplicate a lot of things. It's as simple as simple math, with a lot of that stuff.
And
For you, it's
if you
probably
really
you've always been the numbers and the math guy. But for some people like me, I gotta learn the hard. I had to learn the hard way about that and that trick and how they, and not only that, realizing, yo, I've got to change my mindset and how I look at money too, and how I look at certain practices with money as well. Like I've got to look at it, own it, accept it, and say, yo, you don't, you know what I mean? You don't really own shit until you at zero, man. Like you just don't, you know, and
and
and the power that
even then,
the
do you own it?
power the power and the power and the leverage that it takes from you when you owe an entity something. It, you know,
Yeah,
people that
but
don't
even
want to go
that,
to work.
man, even that is like it's all based on human agreements. Like on a
Very
spiritual
true.
level, even something that you own outright, so to speak, like you don't own it when you die. You know what I mean?
Very
You
true.
can't take it with you,
Very true. Very
you know?
true.
So
Very true.
I think agreements are really, and I talk about it all the
You
time, and
talk
I'm not gonna go
about it
there.
all the
I'm not gonna
time.
go
I
there,
know.
but
I know.
it's everything.
I
Like
know.
they literally are the foundation of the story that we write for ourselves, the story of humanity, history,
Right.
her story, our story, all stories, all
Right.
narratives are based on the agreements because even at a cellular level, if you want to look at it at like a scientific way, you know, all letters, sounds, symbols, none of it makes sense if we don't agree on the meaning of the sound and the
Oh, the meaning
symbol.
of it. Exactly. We all
So,
agree that a pool is a pool because we know POOL is pool, and pool
but
means it's
Chinese
water in the
person
pool. And
won't even understand what you're saying because they
understand.
don't speak
That's
English.
so true.
There's a code to all of that. You know, language
Right.
is really important and overlooked, and then even language, language being a foundation on one level, and then what's the foundation of language? The
Right.
agreements. So agreements are really fucking important.
Yeah.
Really important. But
Yeah. And you harp on that and you talk about that. I know one of the books that you live by, the four agreements, man. And you gifted that to us. That was I that was a great read. and it's I've got my dad reading a lot of interesting books too. You know, he got to a point in life where all he was reading was the Bible, man, and that's great. You know, there's a lot of code in that Bible too. But there's other things to read out here. There's a lot of other great reads, a lot of great knowledge, a lot of great wisdom that is being written. It just is. And I got that he's going to get to the four agreements. I got him. I got that book. I'm ready for him right now. He's still reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he's reading this fasting book I got for him. He's reading those two right now. But the four agreements is on his list to read. He wants to read that as well. What chapter did I read? I read a couple pages out of this chapter to him, and he was like, I can always tell when my dad, no matter what, because he's older and like you said, the boomers or whatever, there's still certain things that when we get to talking about, I can tell when he's like, oh, okay, that makes
Well, the
sense.
reason I bring that up is because I am a money focused person. I'm a numbers driven person. I don't ignore
Yeah,
the importance of money in economics,
yeah,
and I just think that we need to start understanding the importance of agreements even in economics, and understanding economics and money as a field that a lot of people, when they think about money, there's like a divide. They think that money is like anti spiritual. It's not something that you can talk about in the same breadth as religion or spirituality
spirituality,
or God.
right?
And it's like, nah, man, all of that shit is related. There's a book, and I've talked about it a little bit before. It's called Sacred Economics by Charles
You
Eisenstein.
have, yeah,
And
yeah,
the reason I say what I was saying is to lead up to the fact that we've agreed that money has interests
hmm
associated with it.
right,
So by as soon as money is printed, it's printed and lent to banks at interest. So literally every dollar in a central banking system that we've agreed to
keyword,
is tied to debt. So that's what you're talking about, the debt matrix. In a central banking system, every dollar or whatever the primary unit of currency may be, whether it's the euro or they might even switch it over to Bitcoin, but that would be a totally different paradigm because there is no interest associated with it, and it's a computer program. But the way it's currently operating, all of money is printed at interest. It's all mostly on a computer. There's only
yep,
3% of the economy is actually using paper notes, so it's
right,
just an agreement that we have on a software program where people who have money are able to earn interest on it, and people who don't have money have to spend the money that they have just to live. I think negative interest is one of the greatest ideas I've ever heard about when it comes to economics. And the way he laid out the argument, I mean, I just recommend anybody listening to check out the book Sacred Economics. It really does merge spirituality and economics, which are two fields, two disciplines that I feel most people, they don't see them being compatible, when in
right,
fact it's the most important, in my opinion, the most important mission of our generation is to merge money and spirituality, and to understand that if we get our agreements straight in the money realm, it's
right.
I'm not a big I know me and you were both angry with Lupe, but that song Form Follows Function, I like that song a
Oh,
lot,
form follows
because
function. Yeah,
it is what it is. It's like
yeah,
if we can set the form of the economic system in such a way that it truly does benefit everybody, then it'll function properly. It'll form itself, as he talks
yeah,
about in the song. And so
right,
if we can set up an economic system where money actually represents the things that we really want, food,
right.
community, uh, most anything that we really want, it loses value over time, whether it's
Yeah,
livestock or agriculture. So if you set up the money, the medium of exchange, to have a negative interest, then the money that you spend on others, the amount of transactions, it's more about the cash flow. It's more about the amount of transactions that makes the community or the society wealthier than accumulating wealth. because if you accumulate wealth and then the
Right.
money's losing value over time, well, you might as well spend it on other people and gain their trust and gain their friendship and gain their
Right.
companionship. And then you start to form a tighter community,
Right.
start to learn more about each other, tell each other stories. You see where I'm going with this? It's a more holistic
Yeah. Yeah.
outcome when you have a money system that is holistic itself and well thought out. And um I don't like the word spiritual because I keep seeing this meme online. It's like demons are spirits too. Be more be more specific, and that is true. But I don't know a better word for it. For now, it's just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that understanding that there is something beyond rational reductionist science in this world.
Right.
There is a mystery out here. There is, you can call it what you want, you can be an
Right.
atheist if you really want to be an atheist, but I think the only honest atheist can at least admit that there's some shit that they can't explain, you know. Anybody
Yeah.
that thinks that science has figured it all out and we're just like flesh bodies operating at random, like what are you even doing with your life to even come to that conclusion?
Yeah.